The music list so far has been Sia, it's been Yes, and it's Tool right now, and I had a little Radiohead too, which I've come to not like them during this trip. It's like depressing and suicidal. It just hasn't fit this trip at all. So one of the nice things about long trips like this, I've got over 1,600, 1,700 songs, and I've noticed, kept track of which songs I fast forward or skip, so those groups will be deleted on the way back. As I've mentioned, I'm a big drumming fan, and anyone that plays drums or appreciates drums knows Neil Peart, the drummer of Rush, and he has written several books. The man is a wordsmith. No secondary education. I believe he dropped out of high school. Maybe he finished. But he was an avid reader. Someone once asked him, "What do you do when you're bored?" And his reply was, "I've never been bored." He said, "The most tedious time of my life is traveling from venue to venue to play." And early on, I took up reading. My goal was to read every book ever written, which I know is not a possibility, but the goal was to read different topics by different authors. Oh, road debris there. Road gators, is that what they're called down south? He says, even when I'm waiting in a doctor's office, I'm not bored. One chooses to be bored. I'll pull out my book and I'll start reading. I'll start exploring how that writer thinks, how he puts it down on paper, and how his experiences have affected him in life. So instead of not only reading, he delves into the minds of his authors. So he started taking it up as a hobby and presented it to a couple of close friends, and they said, "You got to get this published." And his reply was, "Oh, it's not ready. I'm still perfecting it." He knew that it would never be perfect, but it was his goal for perfection that kept him driven. The same drive that affected his drumming, that molded, shaped his drumming, and who he became as a drummer. Oftentimes, it is the drive to be great that is greater than being great. I've heard Michael Jordan say that. I love the championships. The first one was special. The one after my father passed away was special. But it was the drive, overcoming the hardships, the obstacles, the challenges to become a champion that drove me. So after years of writing small sonnets and stories, because of some tragedy in his life, his daughter and his wife passing away within a year, I believe, very close to each other, he hung up the drumsticks and took up motorcycle riding. Long distance motorcycle riding. He took some time off, several years, and traveled all over the world on his BMW. Just him, the bike, the road, and his thoughts. Traveling to places that no one knew of him. He would stop in little diners or coffee stops or gas stops, and people would talk about his motorcycling and his adventure, asking him where was he headed. Not telling him, I'm sorry about your loss, or man, you're my favorite drummer, what were you thinking when you did this, blah blah blah. So it was his escape to within himself, to get himself right, because those were some devastating losses. He was used to riding solo because before that he had taken up bicycle riding. He actually traveled across the continent of Africa on a bicycle, bicycling through villages, and he would often hear the drums or the bongos chanting, dancing in villages, and he would collect those moments in his mind and store them back there and come to use them later in some of his drumming. And it was interesting after reading that to go back and listen to his albums and see some of those influences in the way he drummed. He was never one to be content with his style or his expertise or his talent. He always pushed the envelope, his envelope, no one else's. He wasn't competing with anyone but himself, challenging himself. And that's what made him an incredible man, besides an incredible drummer. But one of the books that he published was written after the death of his family, and I believe his travels took him to South America. The man travels continents, not countries, not states. But I have that audio book that once I hit the slab going home, I'm gonna listen to. I've only listened to one other book, and it helped pass the time really quickly. The miles just flew by, and it wasn't even as interesting as I'm gonna find this to be. By all accounts, he's a great writer as well. Spends time choosing each word as he chooses which drum to hit, in which particular manner, and when to hit it. So I'm looking forward to that. I've noticed something. I think the Goldwing riders have been shunned by the Harley crowd for so long that they're refusing to say hey as they drive by. Ernie's in the lead most of the time on a Harley. The rest of the time, Boyd is on a Yamaha Venture, which can be mistaken as a Harley at 70 miles an hour coming at you. And so every time those two have led, Honda Goldwing owners haven't said hey. So I guess it's a little payback for all those years. There were probably about 50 bikes at our hotel this morning. Ooh, there's a nice ride, a little G-Wagon action. And one older generation Goldwing, mine, one Yamaha Venture, about 5 BMW adventure bikes, and the rest were Harleys. Those BMW adventure bikes, the new one that's out, it's a 1200. I'm not sure which model it was, but it was gorgeous. The drive on those things is incredible. Single-sided swing arm with direct gear drives, all in one unit. Makes changing the tires simple, much like the Goldwing. The frame in the back is just a steel tube frame, subframe, no extraneous weight. But then they have that boxer motor, and I see no reason for that other than it's a BMW staple. But beautiful bikes, came up to my shoulders practically, and I've heard they weigh close to 900 pounds, 1,000 pounds. This seems ridiculous that an off-road bike would weigh that much. That thing goes down, it's staying down, especially in sand or soft dirt. But since I'm a short knocker, sawed-off shotgun, as Michael Berg would say, I won't have to ever find out about that. Since my Honda Africa Twin hopes were dashed by a guy that rode one, I think for my off-road adventures I will get an on-off-road KTM, maybe a 450 or something. Slap a plate on it and trailer it to where I want to go ride. I don't think I could do 300 or 400 miles to get to a riding spot on essentially a dirt bike. But that's probably my next bike. I would love to do some cow trail riding, some snowmobile trail riding up in Michigan. I had a Hummer that we used to take up there in the winter time, and then there were all kind of fire trails, access to fire trucks and fire whatever vehicles. And so we used to get a group of us, take our Hummers up there and ride those. It was a blast. I loved it. Alrighty, we're stopping for some juice. I'm gonna tap out here and I'll check y'all guys in a minute. Welcome back. This is a road we've never taken before, 14A. This is something I've never seen. We've got a huge lake with the bridge splitting it, and we're heading up into some big mountains. At least they're going to be steep mountains. Boyd called me a few minutes ago and warned me 10% grade up and down, 3 runaway truck areas, and no guardrails. And you know how I feel about no guardrails. So this is going to be interesting. find a way to pass this guy. That's 100 kilometers per hour there. I don't know what got into these guys all of a sudden. They've been putting around all trip. That got the heart roaring. Get a little adrenaline rushing through my veins. We'll put the stick figures on hold because we're coming up to some beautiful sights. It's amazing. You go miles and miles of nothing, and all of a sudden beauty erupts from the ground. And now we are beginning to head up. Boyd was kind enough to give me plenty of warning so I can get nervous. That's what adventure is about, though, right? Getting out of your comfort level. Gotta get into ride mode right now. I've been in cruise mode. Love it so far. Ooh, I see the road up there. Anticipation. Caution, road damage 6 miles. Nice. Next 6 miles, even better. Oh boy, my ears popped big time. More than they've popped any time during this trip. This is like the moon landscape here. Unbelievable. And what lies beyond this. Hey, guardrail! Nice. Wow, amazing. Crappy ass road. Look how far we've come up so quickly. No wonder my ears blew up. Unbelievable. Man, this suspension is just soaking everything up. I know I've said it a million times, but no wallowing at all. Previously, that would have been a tough section. It's an amazing view. I don't know if you could see it with the camera and that wall. The walls are good, people, especially when they keep you from falling off cliffs. Gonna take a little breather. I'll check y'all in a second.